Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, welcome. On this channel we post writing tips, unboxings, book hauls, book reviews and the occasional vlog. And today I have a bit of a challenging video for you because we are going to go through the various ways, and there are many, that you can read the Discworld series by Terry Pratchett. By that I mean different orders. If you're not new here, you'll know I'm reading the Discworld series in order, and I'm reading them in order of publication. In this video, I'm first going to tell you the publication order of the Discworld series and go through the various books, but then I'm also going to go through the sub-genre categories, the different ways people can and have read these books, because it doesn't necessarily need to be read in a linear format. You don't actually have to read every single Pratchett book to understand Pratchett. This is going to be quite a lot of books, guys, and a lot of information. Get a cuppa and get ready with a pen and paper. Before I get into that, don't forget, if you like what you see, to subscribe to this channel. Your continuous support means a lot, so thank you guys so much. Okay, I don't think even I'm ready for this, and I've written out these orders. We're going to have publication order, character categories, age ranges, Discworld or non-Discworld books, and genre. First of all, an overall genre topic is that all Pratchett books are generally fantasy, comedy, fiction, satire. But within this, there are other mixes of genres as well. So I'm going to first go through the Discworld series in publication order. And for each book, I'm going to try to say one or two genres that these could fit in. For example, the Guard series are generally crime or murder mystery novels. Let's begin the publication order, and this is the order I am reading this Discworld series in. However, I have fluffed up on one subgenre in this, but I will explain why and how, because they're not always included, though they technically sort of should be. There's so many ways to read these books. Book 1, The Colour of Magic by Terry Pratchett, and this is the first Discworld book, and it is involving Rincewind as our main character, so it's a Rincewind book. This came out in 1983, and it is an adventure parody book. It is regarded as one of the worst Discworld books and not highly recommended as one to start if you've never read a Pratchett book before. However, it is still a good time. It is Pratchett. He's always good. Book 2 is The Light Fantastic. This is the second book in the Rincewind series, and it is again an adventure parody released in 1986. Between these two books, we did have a little gap in years. You will notice that as Pratchett becomes a full-time author, there be very little gaps in the release of these books, and he starts releasing multiple per year. This is a large book collection and series. Number 3 is Equal Rights. This was released in 1987 and is a buddy comedy satire, so Friends. It is first book in the Witches series, and the Witches do hold a very special place in my heart. At this point, Pratchett had not quite got plot sorted, but characterization wise, I love them so much. Book 4 is Mort, and this was also released in 1987. This is the first Pratchett Discworld book that I personally fell in love with, so it does hold a special place for me. It is a coming-of-age adventure story, and it is the first in the Death series. Death is definitely one of my favourite characters in the Discworld, along with the Witches, and I don't know, Mort just really does hold a very special place in my heart. I will say I won't read you guys the blurb for all of these books, because otherwise I think we would be here forever. Book 5 is Sorcery, released in 1988, and this is an adventure story, and it is the third in the Rincewind series. Number 6, released again in 1988, is Weird Sisters, and this is a parody on Shakespeare and is part of the Witches series. I think Weird Sisters was the second Pratchett book I ever read, and I did adore it. Again, plot not quite there. We then have number 7, which is Pyramids, and this was released in 1989. It is a coming-of-age story and is a standalone in the Discworld series. So this is quite a good one, as it's not repeating people within it. It is, again, one of my favorites. It is the first that I remember has the Assassin's Guild in it, which I absolutely adore, and it has mathematician camels, which is always a good shout. Number 8, and this is by far probably one of the most recommended books to begin reading Pratchett if you've never read Pratchett before, and that is Guards. This is the first in the Watch series, and this was also released in 1989, and it is a crime mystery novel. Number 9 is Eric, and this was released in 1990. This is part of the Rincewind series, and it is a parody on demon summoning. Number 10 is Moving Pictures, and this was released in 1990, and it is a parody on Hollywood. This was definitely not one of my favorites in the Discworld series. It is funny, but again, Pratchett still at this point has not quite got plot down. Number 11 is Reaper Man, and this was released in 1991, which is the year I was born. This is again one of my early reads in Pratchett and is one of the Death series. It is a slice of life satire read. Number 12 is Witches Abroad, and this was also released in 1991. It is a buddy comedy, and it is, as you guessed, part of the Witches series. In this one, Pratchett still hasn't quite got plot, however, he is starting to use plot. The Witches Abroad is sort of like a revisit on the Colour of Magic. In the Colour of Magic, we follow Rincewind as a tour guide of Ankh-Morpork, and in Witches Abroad, the witches are sort of taking a tour of the Disc world. So you get a tour of the Disc outside of Ankh-Morpork, and it reads very much like sections. So each section has a plot, then they move area and it has another plot. Similar to a Joe Abercrombie read that I read, which was Best Served Cold, where it feels like when you read one plot section, you are very much into the book. Then you could kind of pause before you get to the next bit. It doesn't suck you in to keep going per area. Oof, 12 down. A lot more to go. Number 13 is Small Gods, and this was released in 1992 and is a buddy comedy. It is again a standalone, and interestingly enough, it is one of the Discworld books that shows only men. It is a parody on religion. You are introduced to the god of Om. It is a good read, and it also has the famous turtle in it. You'll understand when you read it. It is another one you could read alone. We then have number 14, which is Lords and Ladies, released in 1992. It is a drama, fairy tale, and is part of the Witches series. Number 15 is Men at Arms, and this was released in 1993. It is a crime mystery and part of the Guards series. 16 is Soul Music, released in 1994, and it is a pop culture parody of rock and roll, and this is sort of part of the Death series, but also does link into another series type, which I'll go into later. Again, not one of my favorites, but it's still funny. I believe it is the first where we're fully introduced to Susan, who again is one of my favorite Discworld characters. However, she's not used to her full potential, in my opinion, in this read. Book 17 is Interesting Times, and this was released in 1994. It is a parody adventure, and it is another in the Rincewind series. It is actually one of my favorite Rincewind reads. I did thoroughly enjoy reading this one. I also believe it is one where luggage gets baby luggages, which is the best thing ever. Number 18 is Masquerade, and this was released in 1995. It is a parody on Phantom of the Opera and is part of the Witches series. Again, this is one that I absolutely adored, and it is one that does have the spin-off of Nanny Ogg's cookbook, because she has some desserts that give you more than a good flavour in your mouth. Number 19 is Feet of Clay, released in 1996. This is a crime mystery and is part of the Guard series. And number 20 is The Hogfather, released in 1996. It is a sort of Christmas book / a take on Christmas because it is Hogswatch, which bears a remarkable resemblance on our Christmas. And this is another death series. We're about halfway through in the publication order of the Discworld series. Number 21 is Jingo, released in 1997. This is an action political read and is part of the Guard series. Number 22 is The Last Continent, released in 1998, and it is a parody adventure based on visiting Australia, and it is a Rincewind series read. This, for me, was actually one of the worst Rincewind reads. It's one that is said Pratchett released for his Australian fans, and I have lived in Australia for a year, and it is a fun version of Australia. It's not one I would necessarily willingly return to, but the likelihood of me reading the entire Discworld series in order is exceptionally high. Very likely to read this again, even though it's not my favourite. Number 23 is Carpe Jugulum, which means seize the throat, and this was released in 1998. It is a drama parody gothic and is part of the Witches series. A fantastic book and one that did make me weep. I was so concerned for Granny Weatherwax. Very concerned. Number 24 is The Fifth Elephant, released in 1999. It is a mystery and is part of the Guard series. The Fifth Elephant, in my opinion, is one of the best books in the Guard series that I have read so far. Highly, highly recommend it. I will say Pratchett, for me, understood plot by the time we got to likely Lords and Ladies. For me, I think plot has been sussed for Pratchett. This is when we are into the 5-star reads for me. Now we then have a 24.5 because it is the first book in the Science of Discworld, released in 1999. These are not in the Discworld series publication order in the books, hence why I haven't included them in my Discworld series book reviews. I am going to do a Science of Discworld book review order read of the Science of Discworld series. However, technically you could include them in the Discworld publication order because they are part of the Discworld series. The Science of Discworld is basically a mini-series of the Wizards. I wanted to include them in here, but we are going to say it's 24.5. Book 25, The Truth, was released in 2000 and is a mystery novel. This is part of another series which I will go into later, but again could be read as a standalone. Number 26 is Thief of Time, released in 2001, and this is a sci-fi time travel, and it is part of the Death series. 27 is The Last Hero, released in 2001, and this is a sci-fi adventure and is part of the Rincewind series. Also Cohen the Barbarian. It is a large sort of picture book read. It is a good time, not one of my favorites, but it's still good. Number 28 is The Amazing Maurice and His Educated Rodents, released in 2001. It is a mystery and this is a children's book. Now, some people don't include these in the main Discworld reading order. I do because they are in the main Discworld publication order in the backs of the books. It's up to you. They are supposed to be children's reads, but they are Pratchett children's reads, so take the fact they're for children with a pinch of salt. We then have a 28.5, and that is The Globe, which is the second book in the Science of Discworld series, released in 2002. Again, 28.5 if you're reading in publication order. Number 29 is Night Watch, and this was released in 2002. It is a time travel book and is part of the Guard series. Again, classed as one of the best in the Guard series reads. We're on to the last 10 of the Discworld publication series order. Am I getting lightheaded from reading this list? Yes. Oof! Number 30 is The We Free Men, and this was released in 2003. It is a fairy tale coming-of-age story and is the first in the Tiffany Aiken series. It is a children's Pratchett read. Number 31 is Monstrous Regiment. released in 2003. This is military fiction and it is a standalone. It is one I would really recommend reading. It is a very good time. I don't want to say too much, but it is the opposite to Small Gods, shall we say. Number 32 is A Hat Full of Sky, released in 2004. This is a school coming of age read and is the second book in the Tiffany Aching series. So again, a children's book, but take that with a pinch of salt. 33 is Going Postal, released in 2004. It is a heist political read and is the first in the Moist von Lipwig or the Industrial Revolution series. Number 34, which is incidentally the one I am up to in my read through of the Discworld in publication order, is Thud. And this was released in 2005. It is a murder mystery read and is part of the Guard series. It is known as the best, in a lot of people's opinion, of the Guard series, so I am very excited to read this one. It is one that is in my Q1 TBR reads for 2026, so I will be reading it very soon after filming this video. We then have a 34.5, and that is the Science of Discworld Book 3, so another Science of Discworld read, released in 2006. Number 35 is Wintersmith, and this was also released in 2006. It is a coming-of-age read and is the third in the Tiffany Aching series. We then have number 36, and this is Making Money, released in 2007. This is a heist read and is another Moist von Lipwig or the Industrial Revolution series. We have a 36.5 now, released in 2008. It is the Folklore of the Discworld. This is a loosely based Witches series, and again is one of those in-between reads. 36.5. 37 is The Unseen Academicals, released in 2009. This is a sports parody, and for me it's kind of part of the Science of Discworld series, so linked to those point ones that I have mentioned in this list. It is one I know my mum read and wasn't into, but she hasn't read the whole Discworld series in order. It is a wizard's book. The fact that it's a sports parody makes me question if I'm going to enjoy it or not. I am not heavily into the main types of sports, but we shall see. Number 38 is I Shall Wear Midnight, and this was released in 2010. It is a coming-of-age story and is a part of the Tiffany Aching series. Number 39 is Snuff, released in 2011. This is a political mystery and is part of the Guard series. You will notice that Pratchett's releases are slowing down. At this point, Terry Pratchett was diagnosed, I believe, with Alzheimer's, so his health is deteriorating. Number 40 is Raising Steam, released in 2013. This is a heist book and is part of the Industrial Revolution or the Moist von Lipwig series. We then have a 40.1, which is the Science of Discworld Judgment Day. This is also at this point where Pratchett has passed away. However, some Pratchett books have been released since his passing, from books found, from books he was busy writing that have been finished off, and also compilations of his books that he wrote for magazines, because before Pratchett was a published author, he was a journalist. So number 41, and the last book in the Discworld series in the publication order read, is This Shepherd's Crown, released in 2015. It is a drama and part of the Tiffany Aching series. Whew, right, so that was the main big bulk of the Discworld series in publication order read. In the publication order, Pratchett does become a better and better writer. So the further on in the series you get, the better the books get, until the very end, where obviously his health was suffering and therefore there is more input from other writers. You can also see that at the beginning of the Discworld series in publication order, the books are far more parody based. They are all humour, comedies, jokes, and as they develop, A, Pratchett gets better at plot, B, the characters, especially if you've been reading the series in order, become far more concrete. You really know these characters. But C, and most important, is Pratchett becomes far more brutal. Although Pratchett does fantasy comedy, these books are hard hitting. Pratchett does write and deal with a lot of major world and societal issues. And as the Discworld series goes on, I feel you sort of can see him getting more and more fed up with the world and getting more and more blatant in his thoughts on it. We're now going to go into the mini-series of Terry Pratchett. You can read that publication order just by dotting around if you so wish, or you can read them in the genre series orders, as I was mentioning, the Guard series, the Witches series, the Series of Death. I will name those series for you in this next section. But first of all, we're going to go into the Science of Discworld series. So you could just read this as a standalone series, and that order is the Science of Discworld, the Science of Discworld 2, The Globe, Science of Discworld 3, Darwin's Watch, 4, the Science of Discworld, Judgment Day. Could also kind of put in here the Unseen Academicals. The second mini-series that I will list for you is the most popular, and that is the Guard series. So if you wanted to read the Guard series in order, you would go 1. Guards, 2. Men-at-Arms, 3. Feet of Clay, 4. Jingo, 5. Fifth Elephant, Two Hands, 6. Night Watch, 7. Thud, and 8. Snuff. That is one of the most popular Discworld series. If a Pratchett fan was going to recommend that you just read one series of Terry Pratchett, that's the one most people will go for. I would definitely say to read that series. However, I do have a special place, The Witches. As I have a special place for The Witches, I would highly recommend that you would read this series as well. However, Guards, I would also recommend. If you were going to read The Witches series in order, you would go 1. Equal Rights, 2. Weird Sisters, 3. Witches Abroad, 4. Lords and Ladies, 5. Masquerade, and 6. Carpe Joculum. The next mini-series is the Death series, and for this you would read 1. Mort, 2. Reaper Man, 3. Soul Music, 4. Hogfather, and 5. Thief of Time. Whew, I am getting so lightheaded. This would be a good point just to remind you, if you do like what you see, please do subscribe to this channel and hit that notification bell if you like what you see, so you can continue to see me read the Discworld series in order and have these random little Discworld nuggets within my reading series. Another mini Discworld series is the Rincewind series. Now this is Pratchett's first character, and I have done a video where I discuss why this might be one of the least loved Discworld characters or series. I'll pop a link above me now to that video. They are still good reads. Number 1 is The Colour of Magic, 2. The Light Fantastic, 3. Sorcery, 4. Eric, 5. Interesting Times, 6. The Last Continent, 7. The Last Hero, and 8. Unseen Academicals. This series, because it is one of the first that Pratchett sort of started to write, is one that I would recommend Pratchett fans read, but if you're trying to get someone into Terry Pratchett, it's not one I would recommend starting with. The next series within Pratchett is the Tiffany Aching series, and this is another one of my favourite series, so this is one I would highly recommend. It is technically a children's series, but as I said earlier, take that with a pinch of salt. Adults can get just as much enjoyment from Tiffany Aching as children do. A interesting fact is that Pratchett actually released the Tiffany Aching series as a role model for children when Harry Potter was released, because in Pratchett's opinion, Harry Potter was not a good role model for children, so he wanted to release a better role model. If you want to read this series in order, 1 is The We Free Men, 2. A Hat Full of Sky, 3 is Wintersmith, 4 is I Shall Wear Midnight. We then have the Industrial Revolution, or the Moist von Lipwig series. If you want to read this, you have 1. Going Postal, 2. Making Money, and 3. Raising Steam. We then have what I would say is a parody of New to Disc series, and this is sort of Industrial Revolution / different technologies or things coming into the Discworld, and for this I would say it is 1. Moving Pictures, which is when movies and TV series are released into the Discworld, and that is based when Hollywood appeared in our world. 2 is Soul Music, which is a parody on rock and roll music becoming big. 3 is The Truth, which is the invention of newspapers. 4 is Going Postal, which is part of the Industrial Revolution, but is also the post office coming into the Discworld again. And 5 is Raising Steam, which is locomotives. We then have the one-offs of Discworld, and that is Pyramids, Small Gods, Maurice and His Educated Rodents, and Monstrous Regiment. These are books that you can read as complete standalones. They don't have repeating, or they do, but they're just nuggets of repeating characters, such as death. So you can definitely read these without having read any of the other Discworld series. You'll enjoy recognizing the characters if you have read the other series. However, it's not necessary for the overall enjoyment of the books themselves. Reading a mini-series within the Discworld series is quite a good option because the Discworld series is so large. Unless you are like me and Matt and you are a die-hard fan of Terry Pratchett, reading the entire Discworld series in publication order is quite an undertaking. And as I've said, that does include books such as The Colour of Magic, which are not highly regarded as Pratchett's greatest works, and are not ones I'd recommend as a first-time reader. So if you just want to try Pratchett out, you could read one of the standalones. If you want to try out a mini-series, then I would highly recommend the Guards or the Witches series or the Tiffany Aiken series. Do also bear in mind that Pratchett does improve as a writer as he goes, as all people do. You improve by doing. So Pratchett's later works are going to be better than his earlier works. So even in the Guards series, Guards will not be as good as Jingo, for example. You can also read them out of order. When I first started reading Pratchett, I think I read Guards, I read The Weird Sisters, then I think I read Witches Abroad, I read Mort. I was not reading them in order until me and Matt got together in uni, and then we sort of started putting our collection together, and I only had a very small amount of Pratchett. I was borrowing my mum's Pratchett books, and she was not a die-hard Pratchett fan, and she didn't have all of them, whereas Matt had access to his grandma's first edition collection of Pratchett, and his family are massive Pratchett fans. So between him, his grandma, his dad, and my small collection, we have the whole Discworld series pretty much in book form. So at that point, I could start reading the Discworld series in full. Are we done with Discworld's Pratchett books that you can read? No! Because we now have extra books about the Discworld. I'm going slightly mad. This is definitely and by far not all of the extra books about the Discworld that you could read. These are just ones that I own, ones that I have found. There could be more. Pratchett books are being released all the time, so please bear in mind that this video is being released in March of 2026. More books could very well have come out. Bear this in mind. This is definitely for the die-hard Terry Pratchett fans. This is the extra books about Discworld to add to your collection. If you are collecting the Discworld series, these are ones you probably want to add to your shelves. These are not ones, if you are not a die-hard Pratchett fan that you're probably going to read, so you might want to skip ahead at this section. Oh god, I'm going to need a cup of tea after this video. Right. Extra books about Discworld, and some of these will be repeats. The Science of Discworld, Book 1, 2, 3, and 4. Turtle Recall, The Discworld Companion. Nanny Ogg's Cookbook, which I briefly mentioned from Masquerade. Pratchett Portfolio. The Discworld Almanac. The Unseen University Cutout Book. Where's My Cow, which becomes very well known in Thud. It is the book that Sam Vimes has to read to his child every night. The Art of Discworld, The Wit and Wisdom of Discworld, Folklore of Discworld, The World of Pooh, Mrs. Bradshaw's Handbook, The Complete Ankh-Morpork, The Discworld Map, Tourist Guide to Lancra, a Discworld Map, Death's Domain, The Discworld Atlas, and The Thief of Time graphic novel. There are also versions of the Hogfather in a picture book form like The Last Hero, which you could add to this. I have 2 pages still to go, guys. God, Pratchett wrote a lot. We now have non-Discworld books by Terry Pratchett. 2 of these are ones that are highly recommended. First, we have The Dark Side of the Sun, Strata, The Unadulterated Cat, which I have got a review of. It was hilarious. Good Omens, which is very famous, and there is a TV series out of this book, and it was co-written with Neil Gaiman. And then we have the Good Omens graphic novel. So these are non-Discworld related books that you might want to read even if you are not a Pratchett fan. These are books that are recommended to read. We then have these short story collections, and these are ones that are being released all the time as works by Pratchett are being rediscovered, as his newspaper clippings are being correlated. So this list is likely bigger now than when I have made it for you here. In this we have a blink of the screen, a slip of the keyboard, shaking hands with death, and a stroke of the pen. These are all, I believe, releases that have come out since Pratchett's death. We then have the YA non-Discworld series. So these are YA reads that are not Discworld related. And these do have a series in themselves as well. So we have The Carpet People, Truckers, Diggers, and Wings, and this is a series within itself, so a 4-book series. We then have a trilogy, which is Only You Can Save Mankind, Johnny and the Dead, and Johnny and the Bomb, and that is a trilogy. We have Nation, which I believe might be one of the last Pratchett books released before his death. Dodger, another one of these as well, and this is part of a series, so we have Dodger and Jack Dodger's Guide to London. We have Dragons at Crumbling Castle, The Witch's Vacuum Cleaner, Father Christmas's Fake Beard, The Time Traveling Caveman, Tales of Wizards and Dragons, Tales of Beasts and Bugs, and then I have wrote and collapse, a note for myself. However, I then remembered there's more. I then wanted to do a shout out to the Discworld Emporium in Wincanton. It's now only an online shop. This is not sponsored, but you can find a lot of Discworld memorabilia, Discworld books, Discworld collectibles at this shop, so I just wanted to give them a shout out. However, why I cannot collapse is because there is one more series I need to mention, and that is a co-written series between Terry Pratchett and Stephen Baxter. This is a sci-fi series, not part of the Discworld, but in this series, if you wanted to read a sci-fi co-written with Terry Pratchett, we have The Long Earth, The Long War, The Long Mars, The Long Utopia, and The Long Cosmos. Now I can collapse. As far as I am aware, that is all of the various ways and series that you can read the Terry Pratchett books, the various orders, the various characters, the various genre types. My hands are like vibrating, like they feel tingly from lack of breath from making this video. So I really hope you find this useful. I'm actually personally going to use this as a reminder for myself what series I'm reading and what order. So I really hope this helps a lot of you. If you're just getting into Discworld, hopefully this has given you some ideas. If you are a die-hard Pratchett fan like myself, this may have given you some books that you also didn't know existed. Please do comment down below the books that I have missed, because there are definitely going to be some. And as I said, more books are going to be released after this. So I will repeat, I've made this list and released this video in March 2026. More will have appeared. That is it for this mega video on orders to read the Terry Pratchett Discworld series and further Terry Pratchett books. I hope you have enjoyed what you see. If you like this video, do subscribe to this channel. If you like to see as soon as I upload, click that little bell down below. You can also follow me on Instagram, Facebook and Tumblr. I post your bookish pictures as well as writing tips and on there. As you'll see from the length of this video, this is why I haven't read the blurbs from these books. However, if you would like me to release more videos where I just do the different series, so for example, if I do the Guard series, just the Guard series, I'll tell you the series in their order and read you the blurbs from that series. I'm happy to do those mini videos as well. But for this massive video of just the publication orders and dates and all of that, I thought that would just be too much to go into. And thanks for watching, guys. Bye!